Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked through the long halls of Nexus Prime Station. His black suit was clean and pressed, but his face showed the tiredness of a man who had been fighting the same battle for too many years. The alien station was huge, with walls that curved up so high he could not see the top. Strange lights moved in patterns he did not understand, and the air smelled like metal and something sweet that made his nose itch. Other beings moved past him in the halls. Some had too many arms, others had skin that changed colors, and a few floated above the ground without touching it. They all looked at Hyunwoo the same way, like he was something small and not very important. He had gotten used to that look. Over the past 5 years as Earth's main speaker to the Galactic Council, behind him walked his team. There was Sujin Park, a young woman who took notes and helped with the paperwork. Next to her was old Dr. Won-sik Lee, who knew more about alien science than anyone else on Earth. Last was Captain Ji-hoon Nam, who wore his military uniform even though weapons were not allowed in the council building. "Sir," Sujin said quietly. As they walked, the morning reports from Earth came in. 3 more colonies are asking for help with food shortages. The council still will not let us trade with the Miran Empire. Hyunwoo nodded but did not answer. The Miran Empire had the best farming worlds in this part of space. They wanted to trade with humans, but the council said no. They always said no. They reached the big doors that led to the council chamber. The doors were made of some kind of blue stone that glowed with its own light. As they opened, Hyunwoo could hear voices inside, not human voices, but the sounds that aliens made when they talked. Some clicked, some hummed, and some made noises like breaking glass. The council chamber was round and very large. In the middle was a circle of 7 tall chairs, each one different to fit the alien that sat in it. Around the edges were smaller seats for visitors and speakers. The ceiling was clear, showing the stars outside the station. Hyunwoo and his team took their seats in the section marked for humans. It was smaller than the sections for other species, and the chairs were old and worn. Above them, screens showed words in many different alien languages, but there were no words in human languages. That was another small insult, one of thousands, that humans had to accept. The council members took their places. Councillor Vexthai of the Veltharian Empire looked like a giant squid that stood upright. His skin was purple and wet, and long arms moved as he talked. Next to him sat High Judge Mordak of the Hegemony, whose body was covered in thick armor that looked like black metal. The others were just as strange, beings that had evolved on worlds humans had never seen. At the center sat Prime Counselor Cathara of the Nexari Collective. She was the most human-looking of them all, but her skin was silver and her eyes were completely black. When she spoke, her voice came from a machine that made it sound cold and empty. "We call this meeting to order," Cathara said. "Today we discuss the human request for expanded mining rights in the Kepler sector." Hyunwoo stood up. He had practiced his speech many times, but he knew it would not matter. "Honored council members, humanity respectfully requests permission to expand our mining operations in Kepler 442. Our surveys show rich deposits of rare earth metals that our colonies need for basic technology." Councillor Vexthai waved one of his long arms. "The Kepler sector is under Veltharian protection. We cannot allow primitive mining techniques to damage such important space." "Our mining is not primitive," Dr. Lee said, standing up next to Hyunwoo. "Human extraction methods cause less environmental damage than standard council techniques. We have the data to prove this." High Judge Mordak made a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Data from humans means nothing. Your species has been in space for less than 100 years. We have been exploring the galaxy for 10,000 years. Sujin whispered to Hyunwoo. "Sir, should I show them the mining efficiency reports?" Hyunwoo shook his head. He had tried showing reports before. The council never looked at them. Prime Counselor Cathara touched something on her chair, and the big screens around the room lit up. They showed maps of human space, 47 colonies spread across 3 sectors. It looked small compared to the vast territories controlled by the council races. "Humans," Cathara said, "you must understand your place in the galactic community. You are new here. You are still learning. The council has decided to temporarily suspend all human mining rights in the Kepler sector." The words hit Hyun-woo like a physical blow. Temporarily suspend? For how long? Until the Council determines that human methods meet galactic standards, Vexthai answered. Perhaps in 50 or 60 of your years. Captain Nam leaned forward in his seat. Hyun-woo could see the anger in the soldier's eyes, but Nam stayed quiet. Getting angry in the council chamber would only make things worse for humanity. There is more, High Judge Mordak said. His voice sounded pleased, like he was enjoying this. The council has received complaints about human behavior in the frontier zones. Your people are too aggressive in their expansion, too quick to claim new worlds. We follow all council laws about planetary claims, Hyun-woo said. Every colony is properly registered. Laws, yes, said Councillor Zephyrin of the Zephyrian Republic. She looked like a large bird with golden feathers and eyes like jewels. But you do not follow the spirit of galactic cooperation. You take worlds that other species might want in the future. Dr. Lee stood up again. With respect, Counselor, the worlds we have colonized were empty. No intelligent life, no previous claims by any council member. Empty by your definition, Zephyrin replied. But every world has value. Every star system is part of the greater galactic community. Humans think only of themselves. The other council members made sounds that Hyun-woo had learned meant agreement. Clicks and hums and whistles that all said the same thing. Humans were selfish and did not understand how the galaxy really worked. Prime Counselor Cathara stood up. When she did, the whole room became quiet. The Council has made a decision about the human problem, she said. To ensure galactic peace and stability, humanity will transfer control of 3 frontier colonies to Council authority. These worlds will be better managed by more experienced species. For a moment, Hyun-woo could not speak. 3 colonies meant nearly 2 million human lives. People who had worked for years to build homes on distant worlds. You want us to give up 3 colonies. It is not a request, High Judge Mordak said. It is a requirement for continued human membership in the galactic community. And if we refuse? Captain Nam asked. He had stayed quiet as long as he could. Counselor Vexthai's arms moved in what might have been laughter. Then humanity will face economic sanctions. No trade with council members. No access to galactic shipping lanes. No protection from hostile forces. Your species cannot survive alone in this galaxy, Zephyrin added. There are dangers out there that would destroy you in days without council protection. Hyun-woo looked around the chamber. Every alien face showed the same expression, cold certainty that humans had no choice but to obey. They had done this before with other species. Give up a little freedom here, a few worlds there, until you were completely under council control. Sujin touched his arm. Sir, what do we do? For 5 years, Hyun-woo had played this game. 5 years of polite requests that were denied. 5 years of watching other species get the resources and territory that humans needed. 5 years of being told that humanity was too young, too primitive, too dangerous to be trusted with real freedom. He thought about the messages he got from human colonies every day. Families who needed medical supplies that only council worlds could provide. Scientists who wanted to explore new star systems but needed council permission. Children growing up knowing that their government had to beg aliens for everything they needed. Something inside him finally broke. Hyun-woo stood up slowly. The chamber became quiet as all eyes turned to him. Even his own team looked surprised by the calm expression on his face. Honored council members, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the huge room. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim of Earth hereby informs this council that humanity withdraws from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The silence that followed was complete. No clicking, no humming, no sounds at all except the quiet hum of the station's air systems. Prime Counselor Cathara was the first to speak. You cannot be serious. We are completely serious, Hyun-woo replied. Humanity will handle its own affairs from now on. We do not recognize council authority over human space or human citizens. High Judge Mordak made that metal-scraping sound. Again, but this time it sounded like anger instead of amusement. This is not possible. You need us. Your species is nothing without the Council. Yunwu smiled, and for the first time in 5 years, it was a real smile. We will see about that. He turned and walked toward the chamber doors. His team followed, their footsteps echoing in the huge room. Behind them, the council members started making loud noises, angry sounds in languages humans did not speak. Just before he reached the doors, Hyunwoo stopped and turned back to face the council one last time. You spent so much time telling us we were weak, he said. You never asked if we wanted to stay that way. The last thing he heard as the dew. Fleet Admiral Jae-Sung Choi stood in the war room deep inside Earth Command headquarters. The room was built into the Swiss Alps, 3 kilometers underground, where it could survive almost anything. Around him, holographic displays showed every human ship, station, and colony in known space. Red dots marked the locations where trouble was already starting. The news from Nexus Prime had reached Earth 6 hours ago. Since then, Jae-Sung had been in constant meetings with world leaders, military commanders, and scientists. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. What happened next? Admiral, said Captain Minho Park, who had just arrived from his ship in, orbit. The Council is already moving. They've frozen all human bank accounts in Council space. Every trade agreement has been canceled. They're telling merchant ships to avoid human territory. Jae-Sung nodded. He had expected this. The Council always used money as their first weapon. What about our people on alien worlds? 40,000 humans are stranded on Council planets, reported Commander Hyejin Nam, the intelligence director. Most are scientists, diplomats, and their families. The Council says they're guests now, but we know what that really means. It meant hostages. The Council would keep those humans to force Earth to change its mind. Captain Sun Mi-yoon of the Abai Science Vessel Pioneer raised her hand. Sir, what about our technology gap? Their ships have energy shields that can stop anything we can throw at them. Their weapons can destroy our ships from twice the range of our missiles. Other officers around the table nodded. This was the problem. Everyone was thinking about, but nobody wanted to say out loud. In a straight fight, human ships would lose badly against Council forces. Earth's military was built to fight other humans, not aliens with thousands of years of advanced technology. That brings us to why you're all here, Jae-Sung said. He touched a control on the table, and the holographic displays changed. Now they showed something new. Ship designs that none of the officers had seen before. The ships looked different from anything in the human fleet. They were longer and thinner, with sharp edges that made them look like metal sharks. There were no visible weapon ports, no missile tubes, nothing that looked like the weapon systems on normal ships. These are the new Harbinger-class destroyers, said Dr. Tae-ho Shin as he entered the room. The head of Earth's Experimental Weapons Division looked tired but excited. We've been working on them for 3 years, ever since we realized the Council would never treat us as equals. Captain Park studied the hologram. They don't look like warships, Doctor. Where are the weapons? Dr. Shin smiled. That's the point. These ships don't carry missiles or energy weapons. They are weapons. He changed the display to show a cross-section of the ship's interior. Instead of missile storage and crew quarters, most of the space was taken up by something that looked like a giant gun barrel. Magnetic acceleration cannon, Dr. Shin explained. It fires tungsten rods at 30% of light speed. No explosives, no energy beams, just metal moving very fast. Commander Nam leaned forward. How fast? Fast enough to punch through any shield the Council has, Dr. Shin replied. Energy shields work by deflecting or absorbing energy attacks. But these rods aren't energy. They're solid matter. The shields can't stop them. Captain Yoon looked confused. But that's impossible. If kinetic weapons worked against Council shields, someone would have tried this before. Someone did, said Dr. Lee Chang-min, the chief xenoarchaeologist, as he joined the meeting. We found evidence in ruins on Kepler 438, an ancient species that used kinetic weapons exclusively. They were very successful until they disappeared about 2 million years ago. What happened to them? Admiral Choi asked. Nobody knows, Dr. Lee replied. But their weapon technology survived in scattered data caches. We've been studying it for years. Dr. Shin activated another hologram. This one showed the armor plating on the new ships. The hull is also completely different. Instead of trying to stop energy weapons, we decided to absorb them. The armor is made of layered metamaterials that convert energy into heat, then radiate it away. What about kinetic impacts? Captain Park asked. Self-repairing nanotechnology, Dr. Shin said. Any hole in the armor fills itself within minutes. The ship can take massive damage and keep fighting. Admiral Choi walked around the holographic ship, studying it from every angle. How many do we have? 50 are ready for combat trials, Dr. Shin replied. Another 100 will be finished within 2 months. And crews? We've been training volunteers in secret, said Captain Jin-A Kwan, who had been quiet until now. Every crew member knows they might not come home from this. The room became silent. Everyone understood what they were really talking about. Earth was about to go to war with the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Even with new technology, the odds were terrible. Admiral Choi looked around the table at his officers. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. Now he was going to ask them to risk everything on ships that had never been tested in real combat. There's something else, Commander Nam said. Our deep cover agents in Council space report that they're mobilizing peacekeeping fleets. 300 ships are heading toward human territory. They plan to restore order by force. When will they arrive? Admiral Choi asked. 6 days to reach our outer colonies. 2 weeks to reach Earth. Admiral Choi made his decision. Send the recall order to all human ships and stations. They have 48 hours to return to protected space or go completely dark. After that, anything non-human in our territory is a target. Captain Park stood up. Sir, that means abandoning the research station at Wolf 359. There are 60 scientists there. I know, Admiral Choi replied. But if they stay, they'll be captured or killed when the Council fleets arrive. This way they have a chance. He turned to Dr. Shin. How quickly can you get the Harbinger ships ready for combat? They're ready now, Admiral. We just need crews and targets. You'll have both, Admiral Choi said. Captain Kwan, I want you to take the first squadron to the Kepler mining stations. If the Council wants to play with our territory, they'll learn it's not as empty as they think. Captain Kwan saluted. Yes, sir. What are our rules of engagement? Admiral Choi's expression became hard. No prisoners, no warnings, no mercy. The Council thinks we're weak because we've been playing by their rules. Time to show them what happens when humans make their own rules. Dr. Shin looked uncomfortable. Admiral, these weapons are very powerful. Even one hit could destroy a Council cruiser completely. Good, Admiral Choi replied. The faster we end this, the fewer people die on both sides. Commander Nam activated her communication device. Sir, incoming message from Nexus Prime. The Council is demanding to speak with Earth's leadership. Tell them we're busy, Admiral Choi said. If they want to talk, they can come to Earth, but they should bring a bigger fleet. As the meeting broke up, officers hurried to their assignments. Ships needed crews, weapons needed testing, and colonies needed defending. In 6 days, the galaxy's most powerful military force would arrive at human borders, expecting easy victory. Captain Park stopped at the door. Admiral, what if we're wrong? What if the new ships don't work as well as we hope? Admiral Choi looked at the holographic display showing human space. 47 colonies, 63 million people, all depending on decisions made in this room. Then we find out how much damage humans can do when they have nothing left to lose, he said. On the main display, red icons began moving toward human space. The Council fleets were already on their way, confident that a few demonstrations of force would bring the rebellious humans back into line. They were about to learn that some species become more dangerous when cornered, not less. In the weapons labs below the command center, Dr. Shin watched as the first Harbinger-class destroyer prepared for launch. The ship was beautiful in its simplicity. No complex energy systems, no exotic materials, just human engineering at its finest. The Council had spent thousands of years perfecting defenses against energy weapons. They had created shields that could stop the strongest plasma cannons and armor that could absorb the most powerful lasers, but they had never faced an enemy that threw rocks. Very, very fast rocks. Commander Dong-Hyun Yu floated in the zero-gravity section of Kepler Mining Station Omega-7, watching the alien fleet approach through the observation window. 37 council ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the blue glow of energy shields. They looked powerful and unstoppable, just like the council wanted them to look. "Sir," said Engineer So Young-an from the control station behind him, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding immediate surrender of the facility." Dong-hyun smiled grimly. The council ships had no idea what they were flying into. From space, the mining station looked like any other human facility, a collection of metal buildings attached to a large asteroid. The aliens probably thought they would find a few frightened miners ready to give up without a fight. They were wrong. "How many ships are committed to docking procedures?" Dong-hyun asked. Communications specialist Woo Jin-han checked his screens. 15 ships have extended docking clamps. Another 8 are moving into position. The rest are staying back as guards. Perfect. Dong-hyun had hoped for exactly this scenario. The council commanders were being careful but not careful enough. They thought they were dealing with primitive humans who couldn't threaten their advanced ships. "Any response to their surrender demand?" So Young asked. "Radio silence," Dong-hyun replied. "Let them think we ran away." In the hidden command center, buried deep in the asteroid, 11 other volunteers worked at their stations. They were all that remained of the station's original crew of 300. Everyone else had evacuated when the recall order came from Earth Command. These 12 had stayed behind for one reason: to send the council a message they would never forget. The command center itself was invisible from outside scans. It was built into a natural cave in the asteroid's core, surrounded by layers of rock and metal that blocked sensors. The council ships would never find it until it was too late. "Lead ship is Counselor Zethara's flagship, Righteous Purpose," Woo Jin reported. "Hegemony heavy cruiser, shields at maximum power." Dong-hyun nodded. He knew about Zethara. She was one of the council's most vocal critics of humanity, always claiming that humans were too violent and unpredictable to be trusted. Today, she would learn exactly how unpredictable humans could be. "Sir," said Technician Eugene Che from the engineering station, "all charges are set and ready. Total yield is equivalent to a small nuclear weapon." "What about the kinetic accelerators?" Dong-hyun asked. "Loaded and targeted," So Young replied. "We have tungsten rods aimed at every major ship in their formation." The plan was simple, but devastating. The mining station sat in the middle of an asteroid field, thousands of rocks ranging from small boulders to planetoids. Over the past 3 years, human engineers had hollowed out many of these asteroids and filled them with explosives. Others had been fitted with hidden magnetic accelerators that could launch projectiles at incredible speeds. To the council fleet, it looked like empty space with a single mining station. In reality, they were flying into the most elaborate trap in human history. "Time until the main charges detonate?" Dong-hyun asked. 37 minutes, Yujin replied. "Right when the most ships will be docked." Dong-hyun watched through the window as the council ships moved closer. He could see alien figures moving around inside the ships, beings who thought they were on a simple peacekeeping mission. Most of them would be dead in less than an hour. He tried not to think about that. These aliens had spent decades treating humans like children, taking their resources, blocking their expansion, demanding tribute. Now, they were coming to human space with weapons and threats. They had made this choice. "Sir," Woo Jin said quietly, "incoming transmission from the flagship. Text only. Put it on screen." The message appeared in multiple languages, including English. "Human facility, you have 5 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in immediate destruction of your station. This is your only warning." Dong-hyun laughed. 5 minutes? How generous of them. "Should we respond?" So Young asked. "No point," Dong-hyun replied. "They'll understand. Our response soon enough." He activated the internal communication system. "All teams, this is the commander. Final countdown begins in 30 minutes. Everyone know their jobs?" Confirmations came back from all 11 volunteers. These were good people, engineers, miners, security guards, who had volunteered to stay behind knowing they would probably die. Each one could have evacuated with the others, but they chose to fight instead. "Sir," Eugene said, "I'm reading. Massive energy buildup on the council ships. They're charging their main weapons. Let them." Dong-hyun replied. Those energy beams won't help them against what's coming. The largest alien ship, Counselor Zethara's flagship, moved into position, directly above the mining station. Its docking clamp extended and locked onto the station's main airlock. Through the metal walls, Dong-hyun could hear the sounds of alien troops preparing to board. 15 ships now docked, Woo Jin reported. 8 more approaching. Total council. Personnel on or near the station. Approximately 4,000. 4,000 alien soldiers, scientists, and crew members, all about to die because their leaders thought humans were weak. Sir, So-young said, I'm detecting some kind of scanning beam from the flagship. They're looking for human life signs. Will they find us? Not through all this rock and metal. We're too deep. Dong-hyun checked the countdown timer. 23 minutes until detonation. The council forces were moving quickly, probably hoping to capture the station intact and use it as a base for further operations in human space. Commander, Yoo-jin said, I'm picking up radio chatter from the boarding parties. They're confused about why the station appears to be abandoned. What are they saying? Something about how it's too easy. One of their officers is worried about a trap. Dong-hyun smiled. Smart officer. Too bad nobody's listening to him. Through the observation window, he could see more council ships approaching. Some were already sending down shuttles with additional troops. The aliens were being thorough, bringing enough force to occupy the entire asteroid field if necessary. They had no idea that the asteroid field itself was the weapon. 18 minutes to detonation, Yoo-jin announced. All charges showing green. Kinetic accelerators are locked on target. Sir, Woo-jin said, the council commander is broadcasting a message to his fleet. He says the facility is secure and they're beginning salvage operations. Perfect. The more confident they became, the more ships they would commit to the operation. Dong-hyun wanted as many council vessels as possible in the kill zone when the explosion started. Any word from our backup teams? He asked. Captain Kwan's squadron is 15 minutes out, So-young replied. They're running dark to avoid detection. Captain Kwan's Harbinger-class destroyers would arrive just as the trap was sprung. Their job was to clean up any council ships that survived the initial assault. Between the asteroid weapons and the new human warships, this council fleet would cease to exist. 10 minutes to detonation, Yoo-jin announced. Through the station's communication system, they could hear alien voices. The boarding parties were spreading through the facility, cataloging equipment and searching for intelligence data. Some were probably wondering why the humans had abandoned such a valuable installation. Sir, Woo-jin said, Counselor Zethara herself has boarded the station. She's in the main control room with a full security detail. Dong-hyun felt a cold satisfaction. Zethara had spent years insulting humanity in council sessions, calling humans primitive and dangerous. In 5 minutes, she would learn just how dangerous humans could be. All stations, final countdown, he announced. 5 minutes to detonation. Everyone ready? The confirmation came back from all 11 team members. They had done their job perfectly. The council fleet was exactly where they wanted it. Sir, So-young said quietly, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Dong-hyun replied. Humanity will remember what we did here. 3 minutes to detonation. On his screens, Dong-hyun could see the positions of all 37 council ships. 23 were close enough to the station to be destroyed instantly. The others would be caught by the secondary explosions and kinetic projectiles. None would escape. 2 minutes. Through the window, he could see the blue glow of the council ship's shields. Those shields could stop any energy weapon in the galaxy, but they were useless against chunks of rock moving at relativistic speeds. 1 minute. Dong-hyun thought about his family back on Earth. His wife and daughter would never know exactly how he died, but they would know that he died fighting to keep humanity free. 30 seconds. The alien voices on the communication system were getting excited. They had found something interesting in the station's computer systems, probably false data that the humans had left behind to keep them busy. 10 seconds. Dong-hyun closed his eyes and counted down with Yoo-jin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The universe exploded. The mining station detonated with the force of a small star, but that was just the beginning. The explosion triggered hidden charges throughout the asteroid field, turning dozens of space rocks into massive kinetic weapons. At the same moment, magnetic accelerators fired tungsten rods at incredible speeds into the council formation. From space, it looked like the asteroid field had come alive. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours. In the great chamber of Nexus Prime, 7 species that ruled thousands of worlds struggled to understand what had just happened at Kepler Station Omega-7. High Marshal Veltarax of the Domination paced back and forth, his massive armored form making the floor shake with each step. "This is impossible!" he roared, his voice like grinding metal. 37 ships! Our most advanced fleet! Gone! Prime Counselor Kethara sat motionless in her chair, her silver skin seeming to glow with cold light. The reports kept coming in, and each one was worse than the last. "Tell me again what the survivors saw," she said to the trembling hegemony officer who stood before the council. Commander Yaxhai of the destroyed peacekeeping fleet was one of only 43 beings to escape the disaster. His ship had been at the edge of the formation when the explosions started. "The mining station simply exploded," he said, his voice shaking. But it was not a normal explosion. The entire asteroid field became a weapon, rocks moving faster than our sensors could track. Our shields meant nothing. Counselor Vexthai of the Veltharian Empire waved his tentacles in distress. "How can rocks defeat our shields? Our technology is thousands of years ahead of these primitive humans." "That is what we thought," Commander Yaxhai replied. "But their weapons are not energy-based. They fire solid projectiles, metal rods that punch through our defenses like they do not exist." Counselor Yunthara of the Collective leaned forward. As the most scientific member of the council, she had been studying the battle reports with growing alarm. "Our shields are designed to deflect or absorb energy attacks, plasma, lasers, particle beams, all the weapons that civilized species use. But kinetic weapons, we stopped preparing for those millennia ago. Because no civilized species uses kinetic weapons," High Marshal Veltarax shouted. "They are crude, primitive, barbaric, and effective," Yunthara replied quietly. "The physics are simple. A solid object moving at high speed carries enormous energy. Our shields cannot deflect solid matter the way they deflect energy beams." Prime Counselor Kethara activated the chamber's main display. It showed tactical recordings from the few council ships that had escaped the battle. The images were grainy and distorted, but they clearly showed human ships moving through the wreckage of the peacekeeping fleet. The human vessels looked nothing like proper warships. They were sleek and predatory, with no visible weapon systems. But the recordings showed streams of projectiles emerging from their hulls, each one destroying a council ship with a single impact. "These new human ships," Kethara said, "they seem to be built specifically to fight us. How long have they been preparing for war?" "Unknown," replied Intelligence Director Kethmar of the Nexari Collective. "Our agents in human space reported nothing about new ship construction. Either their security is better than we thought, or they built these vessels in hidden locations." Counselor Zephyrin of the Zephyrian Republic spread her golden wings in a gesture of fear. Counselor Zethara was on the flagship when it was destroyed. She was one of our most experienced military leaders. If the humans can kill her so easily, Chamber fell silent. Zethara had been a hero of 3 galactic wars, a tactical genius who had never lost a battle. Her death sent a clear message to the rest of the council. No one was safe from human weapons. "We must respond immediately," High Marshal Veltarax declared. "Mass all our fleets. Destroy the human colonies one by one until they surrender." "With what?" Yunthara asked. "Our entire peacekeeping force is gone. The humans destroyed 37 ships without losing a single vessel of their own." "Then we build more ships. That will take years," Kethara pointed out. "And what if the humans attack us while we are building? What if they bring these kinetic weapons to our worlds?" The council members looked at each other with growing panic. For thousands of years, they had been the dominant power in the galaxy. Their energy, weapons, and shield technology made them nearly invincible against any conventional threat. But the humans were not conventional. "There must be a weakness," Veltarax insisted. "No species is perfect. These kinetic weapons must have limitations." Yunthara called up more data on the main display. "I have been analyzing the battle recordings. The human weapons are indeed limited. They can only fire in straight lines, they have limited ammunition, and they require enormous amounts of energy to accelerate projectiles to useful speeds." "Then we can defeat them." "No," Yunthara said quietly. Because they have solved all those problems. Their ships carry hundreds of projectiles. They use fusion reactors to power their accelerators. And they do not need to hit us directly, even a near miss from a projectile moving at significant fraction of light speed will destroy any ship through radiation and debris. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, panic was spreading through Council space as news of the defeat reached civilian populations. On the trade world of Nexus 7th, alien merchants watched in horror as human freighters appeared on long-range sensors. The ships made no aggressive moves, but their mere presence was enough to shut down all commercial activity. Captain Seung-ho Kim commanded one of those freighters, the Free Trader. His ship was actually a disguised Harbinger-class destroyer, but the aliens did not know that. They saw what looked like a normal cargo vessel and assumed it was harmless. "Sir," said Lieutenant Yu Jin Chai, his tactical officer, "the local defense fleet is approaching. 12 ships, mostly light cruisers. Any hostile actions?" "No, sir, but they are demanding that we leave immediately." Captain Kim smiled. "Send them this message. We are conducting lawful trade in neutral space. Any attempt to interfere will be considered an act of war." The alien response came back quickly. "Human vessel, you are not welcome in this system. Depart immediately or face the consequences." "Sir," Eugene said, "they're powering up weapons." "Then I guess we need to show them what consequences really look like," Captain Kim replied. "Target their lead ship. Single projectile, minimum power." The magnetic accelerator fired once. A tungsten rod the size of a pencil streaked across space at 20% of light speed and struck the alien cruiser's forward shield array. The shield flared brilliant white for an instant, then collapsed completely. The rod continued through the ship's hull, punching a perfectly round hole from bow to stern. The alien vessel went dark immediately, its reactor offline and life support failing. "This is the human freighter Free Trader," Captain Kim broadcast. "On all frequencies. The next shot will be at full power. I suggest you reconsider your position." The remaining 11 ships of the defense fleet turned and fled without firing a shot. Similar scenes were playing out across Council territory as human ships appeared in systems that had never seen Earth vessels before. Most were actually cargo, ships, and exploration vessels. But the aliens had no way to know which ones might be disguised warships. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council was receiving reports of these incidents every few minutes. Human ships were everywhere, moving freely through space that had been controlled by the Council for millennia. "How many human ships are operating in our territory?" Kethara demanded. "Unknown," Intelligence Director Keth Ma replied. "Our tracking systems were not designed to monitor human vessels. They could have hundreds of ships in Council space, and we would not know until they revealed themselves." "This is madness," Counselor Vexthai said. "We cannot allow a primitive species to terrorize the galaxy." "They are not primitive anymore," Yunthara observed. "They have developed technology specifically designed to counter our advantages. While we perfected energy weapons and shields, they perfected kinetic weapons and armor. We are like two species that evolved on different worlds, each supreme in their own environment, but vulnerable to the other's strengths." High Marshal Veltarax slammed his armored fist on the Council table. "Then what do you suggest? That we surrender to these humans?" "I suggest we try to understand them," Yunthara replied. "The humans did not develop this technology overnight. They have been planning this for years, maybe decades. They studied our weaknesses and built weapons to exploit them. The question is, what do they want?" The answer came in the form of an intercepted human transmission. Intelligence Director Kethmar played the recording for the entire Council. "This is Admiral Jae Sung Choi of Earth Command," the human voice said in clear galactic standard. "To all Council forces, human space is now off limits to all non-human vessels. Any attempt to enter our territory will result in immediate destruction. We do not seek conquest, but we will defend ourselves by any means necessary." The transmission continued. "For 50 years, humanity sought peaceful coexistence with the Galactic Council. We were met with condescension, exploitation, and threats. Those days are over. Humanity will chart its own course among the stars." When the recording ended, the Council chamber was silent. "They want independence," Yunthara said finally. Complete independence from Council authority, which we cannot allow, Veltarax replied. If we let one species leave the Council, others will follow. Our entire civilization will collapse. Then we are at war, Kethara said. Her voice was cold and certain. A war unlike any we have fought before, against an enemy we do not understand, using weapons we are not prepared for. She looked around the chamber. Admiral Jae-Sung Choi stood in the communications center of Earth Command, surrounded by the most advanced broadcasting equipment humanity had ever built. In 30 seconds, every alien in the galaxy would hear what he had to say. He had spent 3 days writing this speech, knowing that his words might determine whether humanity survived or died. Engineer Kyung-Ho Lee gave him a thumbs up from the control booth. Signal is ready, Admiral. We're patched into every communication network in Council space, even their military frequencies. Jae-Sung nodded. This message would reach billions of aliens across thousands of worlds. Some would be terrified, others angry, but all would understand that everything had changed. Broadcasting in 10 seconds, Kyung-Ho announced. Behind Jae-Sung, holographic displays showed the current state of human space. Red markers indicated the positions of his battle fleets, now spread across 12 star systems. Each fleet contained at least 20 Harbinger-class destroyers, enough firepower to annihilate any Council force that dared to enter human territory. 5 seconds. Jae-Sung thought about Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim, still trapped on Nexus Prime, with his diplomatic team. The Council was holding them as hostages, probably hoping to use them as bargaining chips. That was another mistake the aliens would regret. Broadcasting now. The red light came on, and Jae-Sung began to speak. His voice was calm and measured, but every word carried the weight of humanity's fury. Citizens of the galaxy, he said, looking directly into the camera. I am Admiral Jae-Sung Choi of Earth Command. For 50 years, my species has tried to find its place in your galactic community. We offered friendship, trade, and cooperation. In return, you treated us as children to be managed and controlled. On Nexus Prime, Prime Counselor Kethara watched the broadcast in the Council Emergency Center. Around her, alien technicians frantically tried to block the human signal, but it was already too late. The message was being repeated on every communication channel simultaneously. For decades, Admiral Choi continued, you told us we were too young, too primitive, too dangerous to be trusted with real freedom. You stole our resources, blocked our expansion, and demanded tribute from our colonies. You believed we needed your protection. Director Haiwan Young of Human Intelligence sat in a crowded alien bar on the trade world of Kepler Station, openly wearing her Earth uniform. Around her, creatures from a dozen different species watched the broadcast in stunned silence. Some looked frightened, others angry, but none could look away. The bartender, a 6-armed Zephyrian, dropped the glass he was cleaning. On the screen, Admiral Choi gestured to the displays behind him, showing real-time footage of human warships in action. You were wrong, the Admiral said simply. The footage showed Captain Min-Ho Park's battle group attacking a Council supply depot in the Vega system. The alien station's shields flickered and died under sustained kinetic bombardment, while its defenders' energy weapons proved useless against human armor. In less than 10 minutes, a facility that had taken decades to build was reduced to expanding. Clouds of debris. As I speak, Admiral Choi continued, human forces are securing our rightful territory. We have withdrawn from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We no longer recognize your authority over human affairs. On the Hegemony homeworld, High Marshal Veltarax watched the broadcast from his command center, surrounded by his top military advisors. The footage showing the destruction of Council facilities made several of his officers step back from the screen in shock. Sir, said General Morthek, these humans are using some kind of advanced kinetic weapons. Our shields cannot stop them. I can see that, Veltarax growled. The question is how many ships they have and how quickly we can destroy them. On the screen, Admiral Choi's image was replaced by tactical displays showing the scope of human military operations. Red dots marked successful attacks on Council positions across 3 sectors, supply depots, communication arrays, and patrol bases, all destroyed with surgical precision. Humanity hereby claims complete sovereignty over our territories, Admiral Choi stated. Any non-human vessel found in our space will be destroyed without warning. Any attempt to impose council authority over human affairs will be met with overwhelming force. Dr. Jin Young Seo, xenobiologist and former peace advocate, watched the broadcast from her laboratory on Mars. She had once argued for compromise with the council races, believing that understanding and cooperation could solve any problem. Now she was designing weapons specifically tailored to each alien species' biology. The irony was not lost on her. The Council's own xenobiological databases, freely shared during the peaceful years, now provided blueprints for their destruction. "You called us primitive," Admiral Choi said, his voice carrying a hint of cold amusement. "You said our technology was centuries behind yours. Perhaps you should have paid more attention to what we were actually building." The display changed to show the construction yards hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Hundreds of ships moved in the darkness between the rocks. Not just destroyers, but larger vessels. Cruisers, battleships, and massive carrier. Platforms that dwarfed anything in the human fleet just 6 months ago. On Nexus Prime, Intelligence Director Keth Marr studied the footage with growing alarm. "Prime Counselor," he said quietly, "those shipyards must have been under construction for years. How did our intelligence services miss something this large?" Cathara did not answer. She was too busy counting the ships on the screen. Hundreds of vessels, each one designed specifically to kill Council forces. The humans had not just prepared for war, they had prepared for total victory. "While you debated our fate in your Council chambers," Admiral Choi continued, "we were learning, studying your weaknesses, building weapons you could not defend against. You spent thousands of years perfecting energy shields and plasma weapons. We spent 50 years figuring out how to make you die." The footage shifted to show combat recordings from the Battle of Kepler Station. Council ships exploded in brilliant flashes as tungsten rods punched through their hulls. Proud vessels that had dominated space for millennia were reduced to scrap metal in seconds. In the alien bar on Kepler Station, Director Jung watched as several patrons quietly left their drinks and headed for the exits. Fear was spreading through the crowd like a virus. These beings had never imagined that humans could pose a real threat to their civilization. She smiled and ordered another drink. "To those who still believe they can force humanity back into submission," Admiral Choi said, "I offer this demonstration." The screen split to show multiple camera feeds from across Council space. Human ships emerged from hyperspace near important alien facilities, military bases, industrial centers, research stations. There were dozens of simultaneous attacks happening. In real time, these targets were chosen for their symbolic value, Admiral Choi explained as the attacks began. Each one represents Council authority over species you consider inferior. Energy shields flared and died as kinetic projectiles struck their targets. Ancient fortresses that had stood for millennia crumbled under the impact of weapons moving at relativistic speeds. Research stations that had unlocked the secrets of the universe became expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Prime Minister Yoon-ji Park watched the broadcast from her office on Luna Base, where she was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. Through her window, she could see more ships launching from Earth's orbital shipyards, vessels that would ensure humanity's dominance over this corner of the galaxy. "The galaxy has a new reality now," Admiral Choi stated. "One where strength determines policy, not politics. One where humanity leads, not follows." The attacks continued across the display. Every few seconds, another Council facility disappeared, in fire and light. The message was clear. Humanity could strike anywhere, anytime, with weapons the aliens could not stop. "To the billions of beings watching this broadcast," Admiral Choi said, "understand this. We do not seek to conquer your worlds or enslave your peoples. We seek only to be left alone to chart our own destiny among the stars." The display changed one final time, showing a map of the galaxy with human territory clearly marked in blue. It was larger than it had been just days ago, expanded to include systems that the Council had claimed for themselves. "But if you force us to choose between freedom and survival," Admiral Choi continued, "we will choose both. We will fight for our independence with every weapon at our disposal, using every advantage we can create or discover." On Nexus Prime, Counselor Vexathai turned away from the screen in disgust. "Barbarians," he said. "They understand only violence." "Perhaps," replied Counselor Yunthara, "but they understand it very well." Admiral Choi's final words echoed through the communications center as the broadcast neared its end. The age of Council dominance is over. A new age begins now, one where humanity stands as an equal among the stars, not as a subject species begging for scraps. The screen went dark, replaced by the symbol of Earth Command, a blue world surrounded by stars, with a simple motto underneath: Humanity first. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. For the first time in galactic history, a species had successfully challenged the Council's authority and lived to tell a beau. 6 months after humanity's declaration of independence, Commodore Junho Bayek stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching alien diplomats board his ship for surrender negotiations. The irony was not lost on him. The same species that had once treated humans like children were now begging for mercy. Through the massive viewport of his flagship, he could see what had once been the Great Station at Nexus Prime. The alien architecture was still there, but it was now studded with human defensive platforms and patrol ships. Earth's flag flew alongside the banners of 7 conquered species, a symbol of how completely the balance of power had shifted. "Sir," said Captain Sujin Yu, his communications officer, "the hegemony delegation is requesting immediate audience. They say they have full authority to negotiate on behalf of the remaining Council forces." Junho smiled grimly. The remaining Council forces consisted of scattered fleets hiding in remote systems, too afraid to face human weapons in open battle. The great armadas that had once policed the galaxy were now reduced to raiders and refugees. "Let them wait," he said. "They spent 50 years making humans wait for their decisions. A few more hours won't kill them." The war had lasted only 4 months, but it had changed everything. The Council races learned too late that their advanced technology was useless against enemies who fought with different rules. Energy shields meant nothing against chunks of metal moving at significant fractions of light speed. Plasma weapons were worthless against armor designed to absorb and redirect energy. Most importantly, the aliens had forgotten how to adapt. They had spent millennia perfecting the same basic technologies, never imagining that someone might develop completely different approaches to warfare. When humanity's kinetic weapons proved unstoppable, the Council forces had no backup plan. Ambassador Jin Woo Quan, humanity's new colonial administrator, entered the bridge carrying a stack of surrender documents. Each one represented a former Council member begging for terms. "Sir, the latest reports from the outer sectors. The collective has formally surrendered 3 more systems. The Zephyrian Republic is offering tribute in exchange for protection." "What kind of tribute?" Junho asked. "Mining rights to their primary industrial worlds, full access to their manufacturing base, and a promise to supply the human fleet with whatever resources we need." It was remarkable how quickly proud species became cooperative when faced with extinction. The same aliens who had once dismissed human achievement were now offering to work as junior partners in their own territories. Captain Eugene Chai reported from the tactical station. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting another domination fleet moving toward the neutral zone. Should we intercept?" "How many ships?" 37 vessels, mostly heavy cruisers. They appear to be loaded with civilian refugees." Junho nodded. Since the fall of the domination homeworld 3 weeks ago, their military had been evacuating population centers ahead of human advance forces. The proud warrior species that had once threatened to crush humanity was now fleeing their own territory. "Let them pass," he said, "but make sure they know we're watching." Dr. Changmin Oh, chief xenoarchaeologist, entered the bridge with his latest report. His discoveries had explained much about humanity's unexpected success in the war. "Commodore, I have more information about the ancient kinetic weapons civilization we discovered. What did you find?" "Evidence that they didn't disappear naturally," Dr. O replied. "They were deliberately erased from galactic history by the early Council races. Millions of years ago, there was a war between kinetic and energy weapon civilizations. The energy weapon users won, but they were so terrified of kinetic technology that they destroyed all records of it. Until humans rediscovered it independently, Junho observed. Exactly. We're not the first species to use kinetic weapons against energy shields, but we might be the first to survive the attempt. The bridge communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth. President Ah Young-shin appeared on the main screen, speaking from her office in Geneva. Commodore Bayek, congratulations on the successful pacification of the core worlds. How are the surrender negotiations proceeding? Very well, Madam President, Junho replied. The remaining council races are eager to discuss terms. They seem to understand their position. Good. What about our expansion into the Outer Rim territories? Captain Su-jin brought up a tactical display showing human fleet positions across the galaxy. Blue markers indicated areas under human control, which now extended far beyond what had been council space just months ago. Our exploration fleets have pushed deeper into uncharted space than any previous expeditions. Without council restrictions, we're discovering new worlds and resources every day, President Shin smiled. Excellent. And the integration of alien populations? Ambassador Kwan stepped forward. Better than expected, Madam President. Most alien civilian populations have accepted human authority without resistance. They're grateful for protection from the chaos left by the Council's collapse. It was true. While the Council military forces had fought bitterly against human expansion, their civilian populations had largely welcomed Earth's rule. After millennia of rigid Council bureaucracy, human administration seemed refreshingly efficient and fair. What about technological integration? President Shin asked. Dr. Jin Young Seo appeared on a secondary screen from her laboratory on Mars. The former peace advocate had become humanity's leading expert on alien technology, reverse engineering Council innovations for human use. We're making excellent progress, Madam President. Alien energy technology is proving very useful for civilian applications, even if it's useless for military purposes. Any signs of organized resistance? The Freedom Coalition is still active in the fringe territories, Captain Che reported. But they're mostly former Council military units without bases or supply lines. More of a nuisance than a real threat. Junho nodded. The Freedom Coalition was led by surviving Council officers who refused to accept the new reality. They conducted hit-and-run attacks on human positions, but their energy weapons could barely scratch human armor. Their resistance served mainly to justify further human expansion into previously neutral territories. Sir, said Captain Yu, the hegemony delegation is requesting permission to present their surrender terms. Very well, Junho replied. Send them to Conference Room Alpha, and make sure they understand they're petitioners now, not negotiators. As the alien diplomats were escorted through his ship, Junho reflected on how completely the situation had reversed. 6 months ago, human ambassadors had begged for scraps from the Council table. Now, Council survivors begged for the right to exist in human space. The hegemony delegates entered the conference room led by General Morthek, formerly one of their most aggressive military commanders. The proud warrior looked broken, his ornate armor dulled and damaged from months of fighting hopeless battles. Honored human commanders, Morthek began, his voice barely above a whisper. The hegemony formally requests terms for our complete surrender. Ambassador Kwan placed a document on the table. These are humanity's conditions: full integration into human administrative zones, all military assets to be transferred to human control, complete access to hegemony industrial and scientific resources. Morthek read through the terms without comment. They were harsh but fair. The hegemony would survive as a species, but never again as an independent power. We accept, he said finally. What choice do we have? Similar scenes were playing out across what had once been Council space. Species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were signing documents that reduced them to protected territories, under human oversight. Some accepted gracefully, others fought to the end, but the result was always the same. Sir, Captain Che announced, incoming transmission from Admiral Choi at Earth Command. Admiral Jae-sung Choi appeared on the main screen, speaking from his command center deep beneath the Swiss Alps. Commodore, I have new orders for the fleet. Intelligence reports suggest there may be other spacefaring civilizations beyond the former Council territories. Civilizations that might pose a threat to human expansion. What are your orders, sir? Prepare for long-range exploration missions. We need to know what else is out there, and whether they're likely to challenge human Authority, Junho smiled. The galaxy was vast, containing billions of stars and potentially millions of intelligent species. Most had probably never heard of humans or the Galactic Council. That was about to change. Understood, Admiral. How far out do you want us to scout? As far as we can reach, Admiral Choi replied. The Council thought they ruled the galaxy, but they controlled less than 10% of it. The rest is waiting for someone with the will and strength to claim it. As the transmission ended, Junho looked out at the stars visible through the bridge viewport. Each point of light might host worlds full of alien life, ancient civilizations with their own technologies and ambitions. Some might be peaceful, others warlike, but all would eventually have to decide their relationship with humanity. Dr. O approached with another archaeological report. Sir, we've found evidence that the kinetic weapon civilization had colonies far beyond Council space. Ships and stations scattered across thousands of light years. If we can find and study them, we might leer.